welcome everybody here this morning. All committee members, staff, and applicants are attending this electronic hearing remotely. This hearing is being held remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic and is being live streamed and recorded. Please be advised that public hearings form part of the public record, and the words, names, and images of those participating will be recorded and posted online. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask the Secretary Treasurer to confirm the attendance of the committee members by a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, I will be reading your names out loud. When you hear your name, please unmute yourself and respond present. Member Eggets?
Present.
Member Duncan?
Present.
Member Aitchison?
Present.
And Member McKenzie?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, all members are present and we do have quorum, and I would note that Member Hurlick has previously indicated that he'll not be attending today, but we do have quorum.
On lot 68, 26 dollar bid, 26, all done, 26. Select extra dark and dark.
I think we have an auction going on.
We can continue.
Yeah, I go ahead. Oh,
Yeah, we'll carry on. It's right up on the first page, right after mine.
top here.
Sorry. No, not the first page again. First page. So,
Oh.
second chart. Yeah, right there.
Right there. Okay. Okay, before I outline the hearing format, I want to make a note that what will be shown on the screen for those viewing at home is our remote hearing platform, whereby whoever is speaking will be shown predominantly with smaller images of the members and staff attending along the edge of the screen. As we consider each application, it'll take some time and there may be some extended pauses. Staff are in attendance and may need to interrupt the hearing as the need arises. So we ask for your patience as we navigate the new electronic hearing format. The agenda for this hearing has been posted online at perthcounty.ca. If you want to follow along, please feel free to access it now. I will remind all committee members, staff, and applicants participating in the hearing to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce the feedback. I'd also like to share the hearing format we will be using to navigate through each application. Each application will be called by the chair, followed by a report summary provided by county planning staff. Applicants will be given an opportunity to add anything further to their application. If you are an applicant or have nothing further to add, then you can simply say so. The committee will then be able to ask questions to the applicant or staff. After that, we will hear from members of the public who wish to comment on the application. Please note that all comments should be addressed through the chair. Please avoid repeating concerns already stated by others and focus on adding new information. Once all comments from the public have been heard, the applicant or staff will be given the opportunity to respond to comments. Finally, I will turn to the committee for a motion and deliberation, as well as a vote on the application. As this hearing is being held remotely, there are some protocol changes regarding how the committee will vote. Because members of the public won't be able to see all members of the committee on the screen at one time, when the committee is making a decision on the application, I will be asking the Secretary Treasurer to conduct the vote by roll call. The Secretary Treasurer will call each of the members' names and each member will respond if they are in favor or opposed to the motion, and I will announce the result of the vote following that. Okay, so we'll turn to the agenda here. And the first item is confirmation of the agenda. Do we have somebody willing to move? Councillor Eggets and a seconder?
I will. Jim Aitchison.
Okay, Councillor Aitchison. Okay, David?
Okay, so I'll just start from the top. So Member Eggets, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. All right, does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda this morning? Okay, seeing none. First item on the agenda then is the adoption of the minutes from July 27th. And I would entertain a motion for that. Councillor Duncan and Councillor Agats. Dave, I'll let you do the vote.
Sure. Member Agats, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Mackenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. All right, item number 5, and it's 5.1, an application for consent to sever B26 and B27 by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of Lone Oak Properties Limited. And I will turn it over to Dave to give us his report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, members of Land Division Committee, the following applications for consent by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of Lone Oak Properties Limited propose to sever lots for residential development having frontage along Fisher Avenue in the village of Atwood. Our reporting concerns 2 applications for consent. The first application, B26-20, proposes to sever a rectangular parcel of land having an area of approximately 700 square meters with an approximately 25 meters or 82 feet of frontage along an unopened road allowance, while the second application, application B2720, proposes to sever a rectangular parcel of land also having an area of approximately 700 square meters from the lands retained from application B26-20 with frontage of approximately 25 meters or 82 feet also along an unopened road allowance, while retaining approximately 800 square meters of land having approximately 27.25 meters or 89 feet of frontage along Fisher Avenue. The subject property is within the serviced urban settlement area residential designation of the County of Perth official plan and is within the residential zone 4 R4 of the North Perth municipal zoning bylaw. The R4 zone permits a variety of residential uses, including 1 semi-detached dwelling on 1 lot and 1 dwelling unit of a semi-detached dwelling on 1 lot, among other residential uses. As stated by the applicants in their letter dated June 18th, 2020, which has been attached to our report as Schedule D, the intent of the proposed severances are to facilitate future development of 3 semi-detached dwellings on the subject lands. Additional Planning Act applications are anticipated to be submitted to the County of Perth for the purpose of further dividing the subject lands to create parcels of land with each containing 1 unit of a semi-detached dwelling on 1 lot following establishment of the proposed dwellings. As per the County of Perth official plan, the lot frontage, depth, and size of all lots proposed to be created through the applications have been found to be appropriate for the proposed residential use, and additionally have been found to exceed the requirements for minimum lot area and lot frontage in the local zoning bylaw. All of the proposed lots created via the applications for consent would conform to the minimum requirements of the local zoning bylaw with regard to minimum lot area and minimum lot frontage, respectively, for the development of semi-detached dwellings on 1 lot within the R4 zone. While surrounding established residential uses are predominantly single detached dwellings, development of the subject property with semi-detached units along the scale proposed by the applicants represents compatible development with neighboring land uses as per section 6.4.16.7 of the County of Perth official plan. The general massing, scale, and front yard depth that would result should semi-detached units be developed at this location would not create any drastic inconsistencies with the existing streetscape found along Fisher Avenue, as the units would be oriented to face the proposed extension of Queen Street. Some additional buffering and spatial separation among the different unit types would also occur from a streetscape perspective. With further regard to compatibility among existing land uses, The proposed severances are likely to create a situation whereby new residential units would back onto the interior side yard and rear yard of an adjacent property located at 153 Fisher Avenue, which contains a single detached dwelling. In order to address potential privacy impacts upon the existing neighboring residential use, it may be appropriate that the development agreement, which has been recommended by condition number 6, be implemented to include requirement that buffering and screening be installed in the form of a fence or barrier by the applicants along the rear lot lines of all severed and retained lots in accordance with local municipal standards. The location and arrangement of the proposed lots would ensure that establishment of any semi-detached dwellings would develop as a group or cluster rather than in a scattered pattern, which is consistent with the direction provided under the County of Perth official plan for this type of development within the Atwood settlement area. The subject lands currently have frontage and public road access along Fisher Avenue, found along the northern boundary of the property. To ensure that the proposed severed lots are consistent with County of Perth official plan policies that concern new lot creation, a new public road must be created. Under general circumstances, creation of new lots through severance that lack access and frontage onto an existing open public road would be considered premature development given the requirements contained under Section 16 of the County of Perth official plan. In addressing this deficiency, the owners were granted permission by the Council of the Municipality of North Perth to pursue a development agreement with the municipality that would ensure creation of a new public road to service the proposed lots. Recommended conditions of consent, conditions number 4 and 5, have been included directing that an extension of Queen Street Atwood be constructed to municipal standards and that this public road be open to service such that the proposed lots would be consistent with official plan policy to facilitate the proposed residential development. It is reasonable to suggest that the required public works to complete the road would be completed within 12 months from when a provisional consent would be granted. And as such, these timelines and recent permissions granted by the local municipality to pursue the necessary development agreement to guide and direct construction of the new public road. As such, the proposed development can be considered appropriate at the present time. The development of the subject property in the manner proposed represents a form of orderly and logical growth that would more efficiently leverage existing municipal infrastructure and facilitate fill out of an existing designated settlement area, which is found along the southern extents of the Atwood settlement area. The proposed applications for consent have been found to be consistent with the provincial policy statement and are in general conformity with the County of Perth official plan. The Planning Office is recommending that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the applications for consent to sever applications number B26-20 and B27-20, subject to the 7 conditions that are contained in our report for each application. To date, the County Planning Office has received responses to our circulation from Hydro One Networks as well as Bell Canada. Both agencies have responded stating no concern for the applications. Additionally, the Council of the Municipality of North Perth responded to the County of Perth Land Division Committee recommending that the applications for consent be approved. The County Planning Office has also received responses from residents Dave and Jamie Pettipies, residents Erica and Bill Dietrich, and residents Ellen and Kevin Scholl, all stating opposition to the noted applications for consent. Copies of the correspondence that was received from these residents was shared with all members of the Land Division Committee prior to today's meeting. I do understand that the applicant's agent is on the line to address the applications, as well as residents Bill and Erica Dietrich and David and Jamie Pettipies. That is the summary of our report. Again, staff are recommending approval of the application subject to the 7 conditions noted in our report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of committee and members of the public may have on behalf of county planning staff. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to the chair.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Patterson, who is on the phone, I guess, and if he has anything further that he wishes to add at this time.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. Here in full support naturally of the staff report and the recommendations contained therein. The only piece of information that I would add for the committee members is that the Queen Street extension, as noted, is not just required for the development of these lots. It's also required for the development of the lots to the east, which are shown on your screen right now. Those representing Block 5 and Block 6 on Plan 44M-51, which was a plan of subdivision approved by County Council. So those two blocks are to be developed for street fronting townhouses that would face the Queen Street extension. And lands to the east of those blocks have also been developed for semi-detached houses and street fronting townhouses as well. So when the Queen Street extension is constructed, which is going through a process of having a development agreement arranged with North Perth, the units on the east side would face towards that roadway, as well as the semi-detached units that we're proposing as part of these consent applications. So I just wanted to provide that for committee, that this Queen Street extension is not just required for these semi-detached units, but also for the development of the blocks to the east. And if there's any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patterson. At this time, I will ask, normally I would ask if there's anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application, and we do have two people on here that I'm assuming maybe want to have some comments. So I will ask Bill and Erica Dietrich first, I guess, if they have anything further they want to add at this time.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So number one, my biggest problem with all this is when we purchased this lot from Mr. Russ Danbrook, we were told that that was going to be a one lot semi-attached house, or a single dwelling house, sorry. So at that time, I could have picked any lot in this whole subdivision. I would have never picked this lot if I knew all these, I was going to have 6 backyards in mind. I just don't understand how he's gotten away with lying about this. I think this is very serious stuff to be lying about. Over the years, I've approached him and he's always gave me the same answer. I just don't understand how this can change now. My second problem now, them backyards go right into mine. So everybody's kids and pets are going to be right in my backyard. My kids go out there to play. There's going to be dogs running. It won't even be safe. Who knows what kind of pets everybody's going to have back there now. And I work all hours of the night. I'm going to come home. It's going to be very loud. And then what about the height restrictions? I'm going to be all shadowed in as well. Them are my biggest issues with this. Anything to say?
Okay, thank you, Bill. Dave Pettipies, you have something you want to say at this time? You're muted. I'm not sure if you're trying to say something or
There we
not. Right, there you go.
Okay. You can hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're also very upset with this new proposal as well. Can't even imagine how the Dietrichs feel, as they stated. They were the first ones here with the pick of the litter. We got this last lot. We purchased it in 2018, directly beside. So we're lot 23. So we purchased it in 2018, built in 2019. We came from a very nice, matured neighborhood in Listowel, but we made this decision after searching for a few years for the privacy that we wanted. Our big thing why we sold our beautiful home in Listowel that we had was because there was privacy and nobody backing into our yard. We were also told by Russ Danbrook that Lot 25 was a single dwelling unit many times as well. And so that was the big reason why we made this huge decision. We're really concerned of the privacy, like we said. That's the main thing for us, as well as sound. We back onto a farmer's field, and we had this conversation with Russ that the whole point why we moved back here was the privacy and the quietness. And he said, not in our lifetime will there anything be in our backyard. And I'm quoting him. And it's just heartbreaking now knowing that there's 6 other families instead of 1, 6 of them that can see into our yard. We can hear them. Not to mention the more traffic now. We all have young children in this area. Most of the residents in this area in Fisher Avenue all have young, small children. Now there's 6 more families instead of 1 with all that traffic coming down Fisher, Queen. We're concerned of the views. So yes, Mr. Patterson has said that they would do a fence for Danbrooks or Lone Oak. Well, that's great. Now I'm looking at a big ugly fence. What about the street lights now that are shining into my nice, beautiful backyard, ruining my view and my stars? And, and I'm sorry, we're just so upset about this because would have never built a year ago if we knew this. And that's in a year. We're very concerned about lowering. Now this has probably lowered the value of our property. Who's going to want 6 other families looking in their backyard? You move to Atwood because everything's getting bigger. Everything's getting brought up. It's just, let's just make our world into a concrete jungle. So we moved here to have this. And a year later, it's already changing. We just feel so betrayed and hurt and just can't believe your neighbor, literally your neighbor, lies to you, to your face. We feel townhouses will look out of place after that road, especially 3 of them. Doesn't even match what's going across the road, as Mr. Patterson has just said. So that looks silly. As well as, what about the curb appeal? Like it's just disappointing. And we really, really hope that money doesn't take over humanity as it has in the years. And please, council members, just feel our heartache, because this is our forever home. And now it's just crushing us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Patterson, do you have anything further that you would like to say at this time?
Yeah, back to you, through you, Mr. Chair. Naturally, I can't speak to what Mr. Danbrook has said or done with the neighbors in this subdivision. When this was brought forward to me, I looked at it strictly from a planning standpoint and what the official plan, provincial policy statement, and the zoning bylaw allowed on this property and with the current zoning. So as noted in the county staff report and in my cover letter, what's being proposed is in conformity to planning legislation and the applicable documents. And this is simply a consent application to create the lots. So from a planning standpoint, I stand behind the applications and what we're proposing today. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from committee members? Okay, seeing no questions.
Jim unmute himself.
Oh, Jim, you're muted. Oh, you're unmuted. Are you wishing to ask a question?
Not really ask a question. I understand the neighbors' concerns, like that's kind of obvious. But further to what the planning report said and further to what Mr. Patterson kind of reiterated, it does meet all the criteria, and there's not really any reason that we should stop this, and I would have to support it at this point in time. Like, we truly can't stop that because it meets everything it needs to meet.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other questions from the committee members? Rhonda, go ahead.
Should one of the conditions be that there is a fence or a barrier between at this time? Or is that taken care of in the site plan?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. Through the chair, Member Eggets, we alluded to that in our presentation. It's not explicitly stated in any of the conditions as a requirement at the current time. I brought that up as a point of discussion for the committee. The site plan bylaw for North Perth, as I understand, would not compel the construction of a fence along the rear lot line due to the number of units. So it's only for greater than 2 units that they would have to go through site plan control on a per site basis. So my understanding is that they would not be compelled, and that's for that reason. I had that as a point of discussion, whether the committee felt it appropriate to include here or not. I'll leave it at that. I see Councillor Duncan, Member Duncan rather, has his hand up to speak as well. So
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, and like others have said, it does meet all legal planning aspects for this to pass. Now, I completely understand the neighbors' concerns, and I've heard them in the past about stuff that's went on with the Lone Oak developments. Now, I think it's very important that we do add the fence or the barrier as a condition of consent, just because of the site plan restrictions in North Perth. So I think that's something I'd like to see added to this before we vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Can I just add a point there, Walter?
Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
A fence might be kind of not the prettiest thing in the world, even if it was a nice thing, like a shrub all the way along there would be maybe more appropriate than a fence. I don't know, be up to the developers to decide that, but I would rather see shrubbery down the back than I would rather see a fence.
Or a combination of both, maybe.
Or a combination thereof.
Yeah, right. Okay. Scott, do you have anything further to add to that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the committee is well within its rights to request or make a condition that a fence be included along the common property line. In my experience and based on other applications that I've dealt with, that can be deemed appropriate because it's done as one fence and therefore it's constructed as one material and has one consistent look. Whereas if this proceeds through consent and is supported and becomes individual lots, then you could have individual property owners constructing different types of fence. So yes, if a fence is being considered, then a fence, in my opinion, should be constructed at one time for the entire property length and be consistent.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. At this stage of the game, then I'm looking for a motion. Oh, sorry. Oh, Sally, sorry. Go ahead, Sally.
Good morning, everybody. Through you, Chair, to the committee. Perhaps the condition for some type of screening could be open to fencing or some type of vegetation or a combination thereof, but that the criteria be that it's part and parcel of the development agreement that's been proposed for the road and the servicing, and that there is a consistent material used along that common line. I think we could be that specific, and that would confirm or solidify the wishes of the committee that buffering be in place and that it's consistent across the line. But perhaps you don't want to specify what type of material, but give options.
So we would do that, Sally, as another condition. I believe there were 7, so it would be an 8th condition that we would have there, that some form of screening consistent across that whole area be implemented.
Yeah, it could be a separate condition, or it could be added to the condition about the development agreement.
Okay. All right. Okay, you can incorporate that in there.
yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any committee members, anything further at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion at this time.
I would make that motion, Walter. It's Jim Aitchison.
Yes, okay.
With the 8th condition that there has to be some sort of barrier constructed along the property line there at the back.
A buffer of some type.
A buffer.
Yes, okay. So that is moved by Jim.
just get some clarity.
Sure, go ahead.
So through the chair, just to address that, Member Aitchison, just for clarification, as a separate 8th condition, do you wish that to be the requirement for screening and buffering be incorporated as part of the development agreement that's stated in condition 6, or rather that would just be a separate requirement, separate and apart from the development agreement that's being proposed? Just for clarification.
Doesn't really matter whether it's 6 or a separate 8. I'm going to leave it a separate 8, so then it stands out.
I just want to follow up with that. Are you suggesting that it be incorporated in that agreement or no?
I think it could be incorporated in the agreement, or we can make it separate, whatever the planning department thinks is the best way to do it.
Okay. Sally?
I see our director, our
If
manager
you-
of planning has something to say.
If we put it in the development agreement, I mean, it can be a separate condition, but a condition that directs that it be part of the development agreement, because then it can happen with the other parts of development and not be restricted necessarily to the 1 year. In case this doesn't come together in 1 year.
Okay, so what you're saying, Sally, is it would be better to be attached to the development agreement as opposed to a separate condition.
Yeah, that that the development agreement include provisions for a uniform barrier along that common line.
Works for me.
Okay, all right, thanks, Jim. We still need a seconder for this motion. Rhonda, okay, thank you. Now, maybe just to clarify this again, so there's going to be 7 conditions, but the 6th condition, and I'll turn it over to Dave so that we all know what we're talking about here.
Sure. So through the chair, just to confirm for the members, we're voting on a motion inclusive of the 7 conditions stated in the report, with alteration to condition 6 that there be a buffer or barrier added along the rear lot line of the subject property to include a buffer or barrier for screening purposes, and that will be incorporated in the agreement that's directed by condition number 6.
Okay,
Just to clarify.
all right. I'll turn it over to Dave then.
I'll ask for, do we have a second on the motion?
Yeah, we had
Okay.
Jim moved it and Ron seconded
Okay.
it, so.
So I'll do a roll call on the motion at this point. So Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So the result of that motion is that it's carried. Land Division Committee's decision.
Oh, hey, Walter, we'll need a second motion for the second application.
Oh, there's 2 applications there too.
Yeah, there's 2 applications here.
Okay,
We'll have to do it
so
separately. yes.
so we'll do it separately. So that one was B26.
26, yeah.
Okay, so then we also need a motion for B27. Good catch, Jim.
So moved, Jim.
Jim and Matt?
Okay. So Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. Okay, so the result of that motion is that it's carried as well. So the Land Division Committee's decisions are subject to an appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue notice of committee's decision with a 20-day appeal period following from the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received prior to the expiry of this 20-day appeal period, then the committee's decision is final. So I want to thank everybody for contributing here this morning, and we will carry on. Next item then is new pending and final approved, withdrawn, and delegated authority approved applications, item number 6.
Okay.
So David,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we have our usual report under section 6 for new pending, final approved and delegated applications. Just to update the committee, since our last reporting at the end of July, we have 22 new applications that have been added to our current report under 17 line items. I'm just trying to scroll to the report actually here very quickly. Sorry, my apologies, just so we can see what we're talking about here. So we have, as I mentioned, we have 22 new applications that have been received and indicated on our report. We have 5 applications under pending. I will make a note for the committee that the first one mentioned here, B1519, we have indications that it may possibly be withdrawn, and that's yet to be confirmed with the applicant's agent at the present time. Further, we have 1 application that was final approved since our last meeting, application B3619. And we have 2 applications which were approved through delegated authority, applications B2020 by MHBC Planning on behalf of Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church, and application B21-20 by GSP Group Incorporated on behalf of 267-4997 Ontario Inc. And that's the summary of our report on new pending, withdrawn, and delegated files. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have on this report. We will need a motion to accept the report for information.
questions from committee members? Okay, then a motion is in order to accept that report. Moved by Matt. Do we have a seconder for that? Rhonda, thank you. Okay, Dave?
So Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes. So the results of that is that's carried. Correspondence,
Through the chair, no new correspondence for members at the present time.
appeals,
No, I don't have any updates on any current appeals. I did note in our previous report that we had an appeal received for application B6719 for Sylvestrin. Don't have any further updates on that at the present time. And that would be it under appeals for now.
okay, thanks, Dave. Any other business?
None at the present time.
Okay, and I don't believe we have a closed session. So the next meeting will be September the 28th at 9:30. And I assume it likely will be another Zoom meeting, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But so that would be, 28th.
Didn't know.
Want a motion?
No, my apologies. Yeah, keep it. Sorry.
Do we need a motion?
No, we just need a motion to
No,
adjourn.
okay. All right, next item then is adjournment, if there's nothing further. So a motion to adjourn would be in order. Moved by Rhonda.
I'll second it.
Second by Jim, thank you. And Dave?
Okay, so Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member McKenzie.
Yes. So we are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Hey, Rhonda,
So,
that information about the Zoom meeting for Thursday came out last Thursday from Legislative Services.